In Black neighborhoods during the 1970s, romance meant something completely different from what it means today. Men opened doors, pulled out chairs, and asked a woman's family for permission before taking her out. These behaviors weren't just about good manners, they were tests, proof of a man's seriousness and intentions. If a man didn't follow these rituals, he wasn't serious, and no respectable woman would waste her time on him. These rules acted as a form of social control, enforced by the entire community. When a man showed interest in a woman back then, the first step was meeting her family. This wasn't optional politeness, it was mandatory. When the young man arrived at the house, the woman's father would be waiting for him in the living room. That first meeting was a real test. The father studied the young man's eyes, trying to measure his character. The handshake needed to be firm but not aggressive. Eye contact had to be direct but not disrespectful. His voice had to be clear but never arrogant. The questions asked during that first meeting seemed simple, but they were designed to reveal real intentions. Where do you work? Measured financial responsibility. Do you go to church? Questioned moral character. What are your plans? Tested seriousness about the future. These weren't small talk questions. They were strategic inquiries meant to determine whether this man was just looking for a night of fun or was a serious candidate for marriage. The mother's role was different, but just as important. She listened quietly from the kitchen, watching the young man's gestures and expressions. She noticed whether his hands were clean, whether his shoes were polished, whether he covered his mouth when he spoke. A mother could read a man's true character in 10 minutes, and her judgment was almost always right. If the mother didn't approve, the relationship ended before it ever began. On the first date, the man arrived exactly on time. Arriving early was considered disrespectful. The family might not be ready. Arriving late was even worse, a sign of unreliability. The young man knocked on the door, made polite conversation with the family for a few minutes, then formally asked permission to take their daughter out. When she was ready, he stood up and offered his arm. These gestures weren't automatic. They were taught, practiced, and enforced by social expectation. While walking to the car, the man walked on the outside of the sidewalk, placing himself between the woman and the street. This was an old tradition meant to protect her from traffic or splashing water. Modern generations may see this as unnecessary, but at the time it was a visible expression of respect. When they reached the car, the man opened her door, waited until she was safely seated, and only then opened his own door. This ritual was repeated every time, no exceptions. During the date, all expenses were the man's responsibility. A woman pulling out her wallet was unthinkable. If a man asked to split the bill, it signaled that he wasn't serious. Women were clear about this. If you didn't have money to take her out, you should stay home. This wasn't about exploiting men. It was a test of whether a man could fulfill the role of a provider. If you couldn't afford a date, how could you support a family? Date locations were chosen carefully. Cheap places weren't acceptable. A man was expected to take a woman to a respectable restaurant, a movie theater, or a community event. Fast food chains weren't date locations. Simply sitting in a park wasn't enough. A date had to require effort. If you couldn't make that effort, you weren't worthy of her time. At dinner, the man let the woman choose first. He didn't order until she did. When the server arrived, the man often placed the order on her behalf, representing her preferences. While this may look patriarchal today, it symbolized respect at the time. The woman was meant to be treated like a queen, and the man was responsible for creating that experience. During conversation, the man was expected to listen and show genuine interest. Talking only about himself was a sign of arrogance. Failing to ask questions showed disinterest. A good man maintained balanced conversation, made the woman smile, and made her feel valued. Women weren't naive. They could tell real interest from fake interest, and once insincerity was detected, there was no second date.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments so we can remind you of more memories.
When the date ended, the man was expected to take the woman home safely. He walked her to the door and waited until her family let her inside. Physical intimacy was tightly regulated. Even a kiss on the first date was questionable. Holding hands was acceptable, but anything more was seen as rushed and disrespectful. If a man moved too fast, the woman wouldn't see him again, and word would spread throughout the neighborhood. Sisters, cousins, and friends formed a powerful information network. If a man treated a woman poorly, all the women knew. His reputation arrived before he did, and a bad reputation could exile a man to romantic isolation. Women protected one another, and no woman would date a man known to mistreat others. This social pressure kept men accountable. Church was another arena where romantic behavior was observed. After Sunday service, young couples socialized under family supervision. A man greeted the woman's mother, shook her father's hand, and spoke respectfully to the pastor. He was polite to congregation members. This performance mattered because the church community was forming an opinion about his character. Church approval was essential for a relationship's legitimacy. The engagement process was even more formal. When a man decided he wanted to marry, he first had to ask the woman's father for permission. This conversation was intimidating. The man had to explain his finances, career plans, and how he intended to provide for the daughter. The father asked tough questions. He was considering entrusting his most precious responsibility to this man. If the answers weren't satisfactory, permission was denied and the relationship ended. A marriage proposal wasn't a casual moment. It was planned and deliberate. The man needed a ring, even a modest one, to place on her finger. Proposals were often made publicly in front of family or with community approval. Private proposals existed, but the most respected ones were public declarations witnessed by family and community. During engagement, physical intimacy remained strictly regulated. Sex before marriage was absolutely forbidden. Church, family, and community enforced chastity. The standard applied to both men and women, though women were judged more harshly. A woman who became pregnant before marriage faced shame, but the man was also held responsible. If a man got a woman pregnant, he was expected to marry her. No debate, no exceptions. Shotgun weddings were not uncommon. If pregnancy followed premarital sex, families quickly arranged a wedding to limit scandal and ensure the child wasn't born out of wedlock. If a man tried to run, the woman's brothers or father would find him and persuade him, sometimes physically, to take responsibility. By modern standards, this system may seem harsh, but it served a purpose. It reduced fatherless households, it held men accountable, it protected women from abandonment. The system wasn't perfect, and many women remained in unhappy marriages, but children had the chance to grow up with two parents. Another aspect of 1970s romance was appearance. Men were expected to dress well at all times. Showing up to a date in jeans and a t-shirt was disrespectful. Men wore suits, neatly pressed shirts, and polished shoes. Hair had to be clean and groomed. A man couldn't expect to impress a woman if he didn't respect himself. Appearance reflected respect for oneself and for others. Women also took pride in their appearance, but expectations were different. A woman wore her best dress, styled her hair, and applied makeup. This signaled she valued the man and the opportunity. Both partners made an effort, and that mutual effort built respect in the relationship. Letter writing was a lost art of romance. Men wrote letters, especially when distance separated them. These letters were handwritten, thoughtful, and sincere. A letter allowed a man to share his thoughts, dreams, and emotions. Women saved these letters and reread them often. A letter proved a man truly cared because it required effort. Music played a central role in 1970s romance. Soul and R&B expressed love, longing, and devotion. Artists like Marvin Gaye, Al Green, and Teddy Pendergrass voiced emotions men felt but sometimes couldn't express. A man might dedicate a song to his woman, and it became the anthem of their relationship. Dancing was another key element of romance. Slow dancing was often the only socially acceptable way for couples to be physically close. A man needed to hold a woman gently, guide her with the music, and make her feel safe. A good dancer was attractive because it showed grace, coordination, and attentiveness to her comfort. Community events provided opportunities for couples to spend time together. Church picnics, neighborhood parties, and family gatherings were central to social life. These settings allowed relationships to grow under community supervision, keeping behavior in check and preventing scandal. Family visits signaled seriousness. If a man introduced a woman to his family, it meant his intentions were real. Family dinners, holiday celebrations, and casual visits tested whether he could fit into her family's dynamics. If he couldn't get along with her family, the relationship couldn't succeed.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments so we can remind you of more memories.
Loyalty was non-negotiable. Once a man committed, he was expected to remain faithful. Cheating was the ultimate betrayal and unforgivable. If a man was caught being unfaithful, the woman left immediately, and the community supported her. Infidelity wasn't just personal betrayal, it violated an agreement honored by families and community. After marriage, roles were clear. The man provided financially, the woman managed the home. While modern feminism criticizes this division, it worked for many families at the time. Each role was respected. A man who failed to provide was seen as a failure. A woman who failed to manage the home was criticized as well. These roles weren't absolute. Many Black women worked out of financial necessity. Men helped with household duties, especially when their wives were exhausted. The key was mutual respect and recognizing that both partners contributed to the family's survival. When children arrived, a man's responsibilities expanded. A good father wasn't just a provider, he was a protector, disciplinarian, and a role model. Fathers taught sons what manhood meant: responsibility, honesty, hard work, and sacrifice. Daughters learned how they should be treated by watching how their fathers treated their mothers. Grandparents served as living examples of long-lasting marriages. Young couples observed how older couples interacted. The respect shown between grandparents set the standard for younger generations. Community pressure enforced conformity. Everyone knew everyone, and behavior was observed and discussed. If a man mistreated his wife, the neighborhood knew. Church members intervened. If a woman neglected her husband, other women addressed it. This constant oversight may seem intrusive, but it protected relationships. Divorce was rare in the 1970s because it carried heavy social and economic consequences. Divorced women were stigmatized. Divorced men were seen as failures. Churches discouraged divorce, and many congregations excluded divorced individuals. Economically, divorce strained both parties, and most families survived only through shared income. This didn't mean all marriages were happy. Many couples were unhappy but stayed because separation was socially unacceptable. Some developed quiet arrangements, living together but separately. Others struggled but were held together by family, church, and community. Was it ideal? No, but it protected children from broken homes. Communication in relationships was different. Phone calls were short because they were expensive. Couples talked face to face. There were no texts, no social media, no constant contact. If a man wanted to talk to a woman, he went to see her. That effort showed the relationship's value. Gift-giving was thoughtful, not extravagant. Men bought flowers, chocolates, or small pieces of jewelry. Gifts didn't have to be expensive, but they had to be meaningful. A gift showed a man listened and knew what she liked. Generic gifts felt careless and unromantic. Anniversaries and special dates mattered. A man was expected to remember birthdays, anniversaries, and important milestones. Forgetting them signaled indifference and was unforgivable. Women expected recognition, and men faced consequences if they failed. Physical violence was absolutely unacceptable. If a man hit a woman, her brothers, father, and uncles would intervene. Even what happened inside the home was considered community business. Abuse was not tolerated. While protection wasn't perfect and some women suffered silently, the social norm opposed violence. Emotional support was essential. A man wasn't just a provider, he was expected to be an emotional partner. He comforted her when she was sad, reassured her when she was stressed, and made her feel safe when she was afraid. A man who failed emotionally was failing his role. Laughter and joy were signs of healthy relationships. Couples were expected to laugh together and enjoy life. A man who could make a woman laugh was seen as a good partner. Humor softened hardship and strengthened bonds. Conflict resolution was a collective effort. When couples struggled, they turned to family or church leaders. Pastors and elders mediated disputes and offered guidance. While intrusive, this often worked by providing perspective and accountability. Financial transparency was critical. Couples openly discussed money. The man shared his income, the woman, often managing the budget, knew expenses. Financial secrets destroyed trust. Honesty and cooperation helped couples survive economic stress. Social movements shaped relationships. The civil rights movement and the Black Power movement strengthened Black men and women. Men were expected to protect their families while confronting systemic racism. Women stood beside men and supported the struggle. This shared purpose deepened relationships. Mutual respect was the foundation of all healthy relationships. A man treated his woman like a queen. A woman treated her man like a king. Each honored the other. Without respect, love couldn't survive, and everyone knew it. By the late 1970s, things began to change. The crack cocaine epidemic devastated Black neighborhoods. Men were incarcerated or addicted. Economic opportunities disappeared. Family structures collapsed. The carefully built system of romance and responsibility cracked under pressure. Modern relationships abandoned many 1970s standards. Out-of-wedlock births became common. Single motherhood increased. Men avoided responsibility. Women raised children alone. Romance gave way to situationships, talking stages, and ghosting. Respect, commitment, and accountability eroded. Today, many elders miss the romance standards of the 1970s. They remember men who opened doors, respected families, and took responsibility seriously. That era wasn't perfect. It was restrictive, and many felt constrained. But one thing was true: men were romantic because women demanded it and society enforced it. Standards were high, and men rose to meet them. That lost romance can't be fully restored. Social structures have changed, economic realities are different, but the principles still matter. Respect matters, commitment matters, responsibility matters. Maybe modern couples can learn from those lost standards and apply them today, because 1970s romance wasn't just about gestures, it was about character, and character never goes out of style.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments so we can remind you of more memories. In the 1970s, Black men would open doors, pull out chairs, and ask a woman's father for permission before going out with her. This wasn't just about manners, it was a survival system, a result of social control and high standards for women. The man would arrive at the woman's house on time, talk to her family, and cover all expenses. Even kissing on a first date was controversial. Pregnancy before marriage resulted in forced marriage. Cheating was unforgivable. This system was rigid, but it worked. It held men accountable, protected women, and kept families together. Unlike today's situationship culture, men in that era were defined by commitment, respect, and character. To understand why modern relationships fail, explore the lost rules of romance. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Like the video and share your thoughts in the comments so we can remind you of more memories.